morning to all of you again. And as Mokshada, of course, highlighted that insurance is going through a seismic shift, the entire landscape, more than just an annual obligation. It is now, of course, something that is proactive and data driven. And this change is being powered by technology as well as regulation and digital first players such as PhonePe Insurance leading the charge. So great to have you with us, Vishal, because, of course, you're on a mission to make the access to insurance simpler and smarter and of course more inclusive. So really great to kickstart the morning with you.
No, thanks for having us. I think if you look at insurance, as Mugdha called out, is largely seen as obligation, but the fact of the matter is that it is very much needed in terms of protecting your wealth, right? Protecting your financial security, and that's how it should be looked at. It is, I think, as important for the economy as well, because unless and until there is right kind of insurance coverage and penetration for the country, right, government or somebody has to pay, bear the burden of the cost of that. And there are basically significant impact on GDP, negative as well as a positive, depending on how the insurance basically, getting penetrated. India, if you look at, is not one of the very, very highly penetrated country, right? If you look at your life in penetration, which is at 2.8%, compared to 7 to 9% penetration in developed countries. Non-life, if you look at, is around 1%, which is, if you think about in US, 9% with a world average of 4.2%. So that's a big, big gap, and we need to cover that gap. And there are lots and lots of families in India which needs that protection, because if you look at, there are 173 million households which are in the range of basically 3 lakh to 11 lakh of income. And if they don't have the right coverages, this thing, they actually get impacted severely, and their dependence gets impacted severely. As a matter of fact, if you think about, and this is the data published by basically government, uh, around 40 billion people, right, around basically 60 million Indians basically goes into the poverty because of not having the proper insurance coverage, specifically on the health bills of that side. 54% of the vehicles are insured. When it comes to four-wheeler, 85% are insured, 15% are not insured. And when it comes to two-wheeler, the number is starkingly low. Only 35% of the two-wheelers are insured. And that's a big, big gap, because every time, whenever you're seeing and basically facing an eventuality, if you don't have the right cover, you basically face a difficulty.
Yeah. So you of course highlighted, and the dichotomy as well, because insurance is one of the fastest growing sectors in India, yet so underpenetrated and underserved. What would you really define as, insure tech for all, and what is PhonePe Insurance doing to that end? What are some of the challenges and milestones that you have achieved so far?
So if you look at in terms of the critical challenges, right, insurance industry is, one of the biggest challenges, the trust deficit, right? When you're buying, it's a legal contract. End of the day, when you're buying an insurance, it's a legal contract what you're entering into. Uh, Customers are not sure that I'm willing to pay, but whether I will get the right kind of support when I'm basically paying it or not. And that trust deficit is super critical to be resolved. And that trust deficit, if you think about, there are plenty of reasons behind it. One of them being basically, if you think about, it's a push product, right? Which means basically someone has to come and convince you and sell you. No one wakes up in the morning and say, I will buy the insurance yet. I think some point in time, once the awareness increases, people should basically go into that zone. But because of that, what is happening is that the individual who is basically trying to sell the insurance is trying to optimize for the effort put in, right? Rather than basically not necessarily kind of trying to solve it at scale. And hence, basically, if you think about the typical things like missed selling comes into the picture, because what you're trying to do is optimize for your time and make sure that you're making money, and that money is reasonably decent from in terms of the commission. So people optimize for that particular sell, for that to that particular customer, and hence basically they are looking for the typical selling features rather than the actual service or actual protection which is to be sold. So that's one point of that. Because of that, mis-selling happens. Because of that, basically also customer ends up misdeclaring, because customer doesn't understand the sensitivity of declaring the right information. uh, they may think that, oh, premium will increase or something like that, and hence because of that hide certain information or misdeclare certain information, which again leads to, if you think about, during the claim process, you basically, when that particular factor is detected, that's when basically it becomes a little tricky situation, and hence basically the entire trust goes for a toss. uh, I think what we are doing, if you think about, we have sold 1.6 crore policies. That's the last declared number. Uh, and basically, we are trying to simplify the insurance. We are saying that insurance is all about transparency. It is all about trust. We are trying to make it as simple as buying any other e-commerce product by basically putting in details in a very, very simplified manner, and basically making sure that it's more do it yourself rather than basically assisted. It's not that we are not providing assistance, but the whole idea is that assistance can lead to mis-selling. We want to be basically absolutely transparent, and we want to make sure that whatever product we are selling, our focus is on making sure that the legal contract is well understood, it's simple enough, rather than focus on basically, let me convert this opportunity to, whatever eyeball I'm getting and convert that.
Sure, very relevant and relatable points there, Vishal, that you spoke about. It is a sector that demands empathy and reliability. And when you look at what PhonePe has also established, right, as a trusted platform in the payments and financial product space over the years, there is a lot of data access as well. So when you look at PhonePe insurance vertical, how are you sort of leveraging the entire ecosystem that you have on the platform to sort of make insurance discovery and purchase more intuitive and transparent?
Sure. I think if you look at, right, because of our reach and access, what we can basically kind of provide to the users, and we pretty much kind of reach out to the entire India and Bharat alike. Uh, we have a reasonable understanding of, the consumer base, and what we do is basically end up, showing the right kind of products to the right kind of customers rather than trying to sell everything to everybody. And that becomes very important because, again, legal contract requirements can be different from different set of customers, and it is super important to kind of leverage that data to understand what customer needs are, and rather than basically giving a generic product, basically offer them the products which are more suitable to their needs. So that's one part of it. The second part of it also, basically, if you think about on the data side, uh, because we take care of the frauds on the payment side, right? That's our core, right? And I think that strength again comes into the picture because on the other side of the spectrum also, if you think about, no one is doing creating this mistrust by intent, right? It's just the design is such, basically has been happened in the past, that because of that there have been some fraudulent cases, and to prevent those frauds of 1% 2%, insurer end up doing basically lots of complexities, bringing lots of complex terms and conditions into the product. uh, if you can simplify the product, and if you can simplify the basically or guarantee the fraud prevention, again the opportunity opens big time, because now you're designing for 99%, not that 1%, because you are trying to solve for basically getting the good customers in and not preventing bad customers out, as simple as that. And that plays out significantly, and that data does play a significant role in that.
So just to delve deeper into the entire tech, AI, and automation part of it, right? How are you using some of your data intelligence as well as AI to personalize insurance, be it risk profile? You spoke about fraud detection. What about claims management as well?
So if you think about from a AI and ML models, right? End of the day, it's all about basically you throw the data. And why AI is new, ML has been there for ages, right? And we have been using our ML models for variety of things. Uh, right from basically in terms of finding the right products to even provide the right kind of support on the claim side. Let's say, for example, if you look at the journey of a particular claim, and how's it happening, you can find the issues which are there, and basis those issues you can predict what are the hurdles which are going to be coming into those processes, and then we work with the insurers to make sure that those claims are getting resolved. So we have successfully overturned lots of claim rejections with while working very, very closely with the partners, by literally proving them that this customer is the right customer and should get the absolutely best of the service class. And once they look at the data, and they completely oblige and basically solve for the case.
Also, on the claims processing front and also on the underwriting front, the other end of the spectrum, you spoke about customer support. So how are you using AI and automation there? If you can share any specific case studies or pilots that you've done at PhonePe Insurance where you've actually seen efficiency build on that front.
So again, as I said, right, this intelligence flow or support driven by intelligence, nothing new to us. We have been basically doing it for the ages. If you look at our customer support at a phone pay level, right, is basically automated at like 92%. Now that's the kind of support basically system what we have built, and we are leveraging that very, very seamlessly into the insurance support side also. So whatever support queries are coming, we are able to resolve them with a way faster tats. because of the automation. And because of the automation, again, what happens is that automation is not about denying service. Automation is about finding this areas where basically you need to provide deeper service. So absolute service is much easier to provide through automation, and then basically you are left with the narrow band of the cases where you can basically provide the deeper service and involve humans or basically the relationships into it, and that's how it kind of plays out. But again, as I said, right, all the challenges in insurance has to be basically solved through the digital transformation. Unless and until we are looking at digital transformation, I don't think so that there is any other solution to it.
True, fair point. You spoke about, going deeper and the customer support angle, even in terms of expanse and going wider. You touched upon, making insurance more accessible and inclusive. So when we speak about Bharat, are you looking at some sort of, the micro insurance products, sachet products? Are you seeing these smaller, flexible products really being picked up in a big way? What are the adoption trends you're seeing?
It's a very interesting question you asked, right? Because there are two types of micro products. If you think about, one is basically which is cohort specific, and one which is basically, if you think about, is an impulsive purchase. If you look at personal accident, is something which is basically needed by pretty much everybody. Doesn't cost you significantly, and you must have at least personal accident insurance, if not anything else, on the life side. Because in the young stage, that's one of the biggest risk. Of course, you need to protect your liabilities and all that stuff. But I think, and that comes in very cheap. So if you think about on a personal accident insurance side of it, we have variety of options which are available, which you can literally buy in one click. And that's the one of the our largest selling product also, other than the vehicle insurance.
Vishal, before we sort of wrap up with some of the closing questions to you, when you look at the conversions of InsurTech, we have a lot of regulations. So RegTech and, in this space, regulation needs to go hand in hand with innovation and scale as well. And we've got health tech also in play. So when we look at the cusp and the convergence of all of this, building an intelligent insurance ecosystem, one that anticipates rather than just reacts, how are you sort of looking at the entire landscape?
So if you look at any digital transformation needs significant enablers to come together, right? Unless until those things are happening, it becomes slightly tricky, because you can use and leverage AI or whatever technology in certain part of it, but entire industry needs to come together. And if you think about, to be able to solve for digital transformation, there are three core pillars which are very, very important. One is the access part of it, the second is infrastructure part of it, and third is policies part of it. On the access part, let me give you some bit of example, right? Today, if you look at variety of industry data and otherwise also, you can see that 20 to 30% people drop off with a very high intent to buy the insurance, just because they don't have the previous policy details or the vehicle details handy, right? That's a huge number. If you think about 30% drop offs, if you can basically make the details available of previous policies which is already available. Think about it. Today, when I'm able to fetch my bank accounts using my mobile number, why I'm not able to basically fetch my policies using my mobile number? That's the one of the easiest thing which one should be able to do. You need to make the access very, very simple for the end customer. And if I can access those things in terms of my policy details, my vehicle or asset details, then basically the journey can be very, very smoothened and basically very, very simplified. The second part to it, if you think about that, KYC is a hurdle, right, is important, no doubts about it. But why should we basically bring in KYC as a hurdle for, let's say, for example, 1,000 rupees two-wheeler policy? Because many of the two-wheeler owners actually don't have the PAN card, right? And they do struggle with that. And if we can basically enable that, that again kind of can boost the conversion, where basically you say that okay, the KYC should be basically graded basis the risk and basis the basically premium what you're talking about. So that's the second part of it on the overall access side of it. If you look at on the digital infrastructure, basically there is a definitely need of UPI moment in the insurance. We need to basically figure out how to develop the infrastructure, digital infrastructure, in a way which can open up the access to intermediaries and basically enable the entire innovation through basically for various variety of cohorts. Unless and until we kind of invest into it, we'll not see many people coming into the domain. And we want more people, more players to come into the distribution side, towards the manufacturing side. And that's only going to happen when people start seeing the efficiencies, and efficiencies will only come when basically you are expanding the digital. The cost of distribution has to reduce, the access has to go there. So access, awareness, and affordability are the three key pillars over there, right? If you look at other part on the policy side, right, there are many things which can be done on that. Specifically, if you think about simplification of the products, right? People today are basically creating complex products based on feedback from the intermediary that this is what is selling point and I can sell. But need is not selling point. The need is basically simplified product which basically are easy to understand and easy to basically deliver. And unless and until basically some bit of standardization, some bit of simplification is basically created by the regulator or basically enforced by the regulator, we'll continue to kind of create lots and lots of complex products. Similar to that, if you think about, you need to bring in interoperability. Today, yes, portability is there and portability is allowed. You can port your policy from one partner to another. But if you think about it, it's made so complex. I need to wait to port my policy when the renewal is due. So I can't do it any point in time. But if you make it seamless that people can port their policy at any point in time, then basically if you think about the insurers will be forced to basically think customer first. They will be forced to be basically doing things which is very, very important to retain the customer, rather than basically right now basically get the customer into the net and then basically not necessarily care as much about that. It's not that they don't care, but because of the intermediary layers, because of the basically the post facto claim coming in, the focus is more on selling than the servicing side of it. Similar to that, if you think about, there are lots which can be done in terms of transforming the insurance as a category from push to pull. Today, why basically a good price discount should not be able to pass to the end customer, right? If you can enable basically, let's say for example, people are allowed to kind of reduce their commissions and pass the benefit to the end customer as discount. If that is allowed, that will be again open up the market segment in a very, very big way. If you allow to create certain sale events, again we'll create some kind of pull over there. So some of these things are very important. And one of the last point which I'll say on the entire thing is, if you think about, increasing awareness is super critical. And unless and until we take a view of opening up the affiliate kind of model, where basically people are allowed to create content around awareness of the insurance and able to earn, not necessarily in the proportion of the premium, but just as this thing. Because if you recall, 2000s of the world, right? And basically when the e-commerce was new, and there were categories which are very complex, like cameras and mobiles and all those things, if you think about, and there were tons and tons of content which was available, right from basically helping you understand what each one of these feature mean, which are the best products which are available. The reason they were doing that was not necessarily just as a providing the service to the community. They were doing because they were able to earn the affiliate commission out of it, because whenever you go and drive the traffic from there to the e-commerce site, they can get some kind of percentage driven by the sales. Now, unless and until we enable some of these models, I don't think so that the content is going to proliferate. In the era of AI, if you think about, content can be generated very, very heavily, but you need people who are basically spending good time into that, and that will open up the moment you open up an affiliate model. And of course, you need to basically safeguard that people are not using that to kind of missell the product or sell the wrong product. And that can be very, very simply solved by basically saying that you're getting a flat payout, which has nothing to do with basically, if you think about the premium or the product being sold. And you are not selling the product, you're selling the concept, right? And basically then when users are going to the respective platform, they are going and buying those products. So some of these fundamental challenges, which typically if you think about, has not been very easy to solve in a physical world, right? But in digital world, there is auditability, there is traceability. We should be able to kind of bring in some of these changes and basically bring in.
So what is your take on embedded insurance, being built into daily life moments? Because, when you are checking out of a flight booking, you have travel insurance there. When you do other aspects of consumer product purchase, there are some insurance embedded.
If you think about, right, it's a great thing, right? Typically, if you think about when you're walking in to the aisle and basically when you look at the cashier, there are basically things there and you end up doing impulsive purchase. So those impulsive purchases does what makes sense, because if they are right bite-sized product and rightly priced product, people will end up buying. The only problem with that has been, however, right, is basically people have been not necessarily kind of coming clean on that. It has to be opt-in. It cannot be opt-out. Right? If I want to buy, I will basically say that, yes, I want to buy. It should not be saying that, okay, it is by default you're buying and you need to opt out if you don't want to buy. And that's where basically embedded product, if you ask me, my opinion on that is not that strong.
Okay.
Also, if you think about from the coverage point of view, specifically when we looked at the number of life, health, motor coverage, what we talked about, I think there is mainstream products which are also basically require focus. And I think if you ask me, our core focus is not to leverage our transaction volumes to basically kind of embed insurance into that just to make quick bucks. But our focus is to basically literally solve for the core problems of the insurance domain.
Got it, of course. And some very, critical points that you raised there in terms of making insurance more of a pull product rather than a push product, and all the regulatory and policy aspects of it as well. So I want to just double click on that. And you mentioned earlier on that there is a lot of demand for auto insurance now. We are seeing a lot of pickup on that front. But looking at regulation, it has been a catalyst in a sense. We've got the government coming up with its, insurance for all by 2047. What's your take on that? Because I think there is more of a focus on health and life, right? And we've got the recent GST reforms coming in on health and life premiums. So do you think that will give a much needed push?
Well, GST reforms have definitely given a boost. If you think about, we are looking and see at our numbers, and we are seeing that there's a bump in terms of the number of people buying it. People who are already buying it are buying better coverage because the affordability is improved. So affordability does play a significant role in the insurance, and that's where basically our request is basically allow us to basically pass more discounts to the customers, because that's what will basically make more and more people come into the net, and that's super critical.
Thank you so much, Vishal, for that great perspective and insight. Do catch him outside. He'll be here for a few more moments. Thanks, Vishal.
Thank you for having me.